Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Everybody, it's Jeff. Glad you're watching. Hope you had a good weekend. Halloween is coming up Friday, so it's just a few days away, and hope everybody's all ready for that. And but it's been a bit gloomy out today, and you know, it's just the same old pattern. Doesn't look like it's going to get much better the upcoming week, and so I guess that's the way it is in the spring. I mean, the fall rather. But as it is for here, I guess, you know, Trump is going on a spending spree there from the things that I've read and saw on the news. Spending a lot of goddamn money for a country that's supposed to be shut down. So yeah, so that's part of what I'm going to be talking about here today. And so let me start with this article here from the feed. Okay. Says Trump is paying himself before paying Americans. No surprise there, right? Day 24 of the Trump-engineered government shutdown. While 900,000 federal workers have been furloughed and another 700,000 work without pay. That's crazy. While military families line up at food banks, the Trump administration is spending hundreds of millions and sometimes tens of billions for Trump's personal wish list. $250 million for Trump's White House ballroom, which I don't know if you guys have seen a picture of what they've done so far with that, but it looks like hell right now. I mean, of course, yeah, anything that's, you know, when you're constructing at first, when you start, it's going to look like hell. But they had to cut like a quarter of the fucking land around the White House to make this fucking ballroom. And I'm like saying, why? You mean to tell me that whenever they had parties or something, they didn't have any place to go in Washington, D.C. of all places, to have their dances or balls or something? Come on, you know they did. I just don't get this. Why he feels, and of course he's going to name the goddamn thing after himself. Okay. While federal workers miss paychecks and military spouses lose their income, Trump is bulldozing the historic East Wing to build a 90,000 square foot palace dripping in gold chandeliers and gilded Corinthian columns. Construction began without required approval. No surprise on that either. And Trump is proud of that. When asked by a journalist whether Trump can do anything he wants, Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt defended him, citing that, quote, unquote, many presidents, yeah, she can't even name one, had started project plans prior to approval. The examples she's referring to, though, are new builds and extensions of the White House, rather than tearing down half of the historic building. It's true that this is not paid for by public dollars. It's worse. Trump is using his Imperial Palace rebuild as a means to solicit bribes from America's oligarchs and technocrats, all of whom have businesses with the federal government, and all of whom are likely to get a massive return for their graft with Trump. Yeah, it's the same old fucking crap that rich people do, you know. Let's have a party so we can sit here and talk business. And to Trump, that's the way he operated as a businessman. They'd have parties, you know, shindigs, whatever you want to call it, and they get all these wealthy people together and they start talking dollars and cents. Okay, that's what this is for. You know, like I said, they had places to go to do these sorts of things. It didn't have to require somebody knocking down, a building or tearing up the fucking White House lawn to build a fucking ballroom. They didn't need to do that. Okay, this was ridiculous spending money. I mean, but rich people spend all the time for frivolous things. They do this all the time, and they think that we're stupid by saying, by asking them, why are you spending money for that? They think we're stupid. Okay, like I said, rich people, poor people, they think on different planes of thought. Okay, because needs are different in both those brackets. Where the poor needs the basics, the rich want the luxuries. So what they want, luxury-wise, is not important. But they make it important. He's spending $40 billion to bail out Argentina. Oh, we got $40 billion, huh? Or more specifically, to prop up his far-right ally, President Javier Milei, whose austerity policies have cratered that country's economy. I wonder why. That's nearly enough to fund 2 full years of enhanced ACA subsidies that Republicans refuse to extend. Subsidies whose expiration will cause premiums to double for 20 million Americans. Still wish you voted, still happy Trump is president? That's worth repeating. The money needed to reopen the government and keep Americans' health insurance premiums affordable was just given by Trump to his dictator buddy. So much for Doge, huh? And it gets worse. After taking U.S. support, Argentina suspended export taxes on soybeans, allowing China to purchase millions of tons of Argentine soybeans, which directly undercuts American farmers already reeling from Trump's trade war. Trump admitted that the bailout would not help Americans, and for once he wasn't lying. So maybe MAGA now means make Argentina great again. We're certainly finding all kinds of ways to relabel what MAGA stands for, because Trump is anything but making America great again. Nobody that voted for him can actually say that anymore. They can't. The proof is in the pudding, folks. You fucking lost. Okay, here's something else. $200 million for 2 Gulfstream G700 private jets for Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The Coast Guard originally requested $50 million for 1 replacement aircraft. Noem quadrupled that for 2 luxury jets, customizable with up to 5 living areas and a shower. What, are they going to live in the air all the time? Christ. This happened during the shutdown, while TSA agents and air traffic controllers work without pay. If you people are flying anywhere, keep that in mind. Person's working without pay. That's going to help your plane land, okay? Just keep that in mind. You feel comfortable with that? $71.5 million on weapons for ICE. Really? A 700% increase over the last year. The purchases include guns, ammunition, chemical weapons, and what federal procurement documents describe as guided missile warheads and explosive components. ICE is receiving nearly $29 billion this year alone, more than all other non-immigration federal law enforcements combined, eclipsing the FBI, the DEA, and every agency whose mission involves pursuing terrorists and violent criminals. So in other words, they just opened our ass, unzipped our fly, so that way terrorists can come in here, because they're focusing all their attention on getting rid of people out of this country, Americans included, just getting rid of people and making sure that, if they don't want to leave, we'll kill them on the spot. Okay, this is what they're doing. In the meantime, terrorists are going to be walking through the doors into this country, and you know what? ICE is going to find themselves really in a hell of a mess, because if they're not going to keep the terrorists out, they're going to be fighting terrorists as well as the American people. dumb is really a small word for this shit, I'll tell you. $230 million demanded from the Justice Department as compensation for investigating Trump's crimes. Yeah, they were doing their job, and now he wants to penalize them. The president is asking taxpayers, you and me, to pay him because federal law enforcement investigated his campaign's Russia ties and his classified document scandal. Yes, he's asking the government he leads to pay him hundreds of millions of dollars. This is perhaps the most brazen attempt at corrupt personal enrichment by any official in U.S. history. A giant slap in the face to every struggling Trump voter who believed that he was interested in their well-being. And yet within the landscape of his many authoritarian ploys, it may go unnoticed by the very people he's betraying. So much for draining the swamp, right? The contrast between his extravagant spending and the lived experience of everyday Americans right now is stark. At armed services, YMCA food pantries near military bases, demand has spiked 30 to 34% since the shutdown started. When staff arrived at Fort Hood at 5 in the morning, one Thursday, military families were already lined up around the building, something that had never happened before. Food supplies that normally last until 1 p.m. were gone by 10:30 in the morning. Roughly 1.3 million active duty military members faced working without pay until Trump reallocated Pentagon research funds to cover salaries. But federal civilian employees, many of them military spouses, received no such reprieve. To summarize, billions in spending during a shutdown ostensibly caused by a lack of funds, which Republicans proposed resolving by cutting Americans' health insurance subsidies. If it's not obvious yet, the message here is clear. There's always money for Trump's ego, his allies, and his authoritarian enforcement apparatus. There's never money for the people who actually make America function. The shutdown is a stress test for authoritarianism, demonstrating that government spending is entirely subjective, that Trump can fund what he wants, defund what he doesn't, and blame Democrats while he's doing it. Federal workers are props in this drama, military families collateral damage, and Americans overall are the biggest losers. So, yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, on its face. I mean, to see that, you know, he shuts the government down, and then he's blowing money like it's going out of style, like a drunken sailor, as they say. Okay, you know, you have to wonder. Okay, how anybody that's involved with this cabal here can actually look at themselves in the fucking mirror and say to themselves, I'm proud of working with President Trump. Okay, I can't, it just doesn't seem to gel, that concept right there. If they have any sense of loyalty to the American people, or any sense of respect for their job, these people would be opposing him at every fucking opportunity. But hey, he knew exactly who to pick to work for him. He went and dug into the deepest fucking sewer and scraped up these fucking assholes that he's got surrounding him. Okay? These people, all of them, are traitors to the country. They were traitors to the country before. They're even more so now because they agreed to work with him. Okay? So anybody who sides with Donald Trump and apologizes for all what he does, okay, I'm sorry, but doing that makes you also a traitor. All right? As well as a pedophile defender, okay? Because apparently Pedophilia now was not even something to be ashamed of, because the president did it, and nobody can prove me wrong, because the evidence is being hidden by the pedophile himself. Now here's something here that's really, for a Sunday incident here, Christ. Here we go. ICE shoots a pastor in the face at point-blank range. Another day, another heinous display of wanton violence by Trump's Gestapo troopers. Protesters in Oakland, California, blocked the road to a Coast Guard base being used by ICE to launch immigration raids into the Bay Area in an effort to stop Border Patrol vehicles from getting in. The federal agents responded with overwhelming force. Reverend George Bautista, pastor of the College Heights United Church of Christ in San Mateo, was shot in the face with a pepper ball from 5 feet away. "I'm in a lot of pain," Bautista texted the San Francisco Chronicle from an emergency room in Oakland. Quote, "He clearly was aiming for the face," unquote. Another pastor had his foot run over by a Border Patrol car who refused to move the vehicle for nearly a minute. Reverend Laura Chafez couldn't believe her eyes. Quote, "They couldn't even wait 5 minutes to do what they did," unquote, Chafez said in condemnation of the flashbang. Grenades and pepper balls fired by ICE. It is a violation of the First Amendment, which we still respect even if the federal government does not. Okay, so here you got ICE thugs, basically. You can't really consider ICE to be a professional organization, you know, like we think of when we think of the FBI. Okay, right now, up to this point, ICE seems like nothing more than a mafia. Okay, and their mob boss, which is Trump, is letting them get away with whatever heinous shit they want to do. Okay, and it's only a matter of time before he cuts whatever line that he's got drawn in the sand with them and says, "Have fun." What are we going to do then? And then in Virginia, a man was hit by a vehicle while fleeing ICE on the Virginia highway. Preliminary investigation indicated that the man was fleeing a pursuit by ICE when he left his car and attempted to cross the interstate. Virginia State Police had said Jose Castro Rivera died Thursday after ICE officers made a car stop in what a senior Department of Homeland Security official said was a targeted, intelligence-based immigration enforcement operation. It's just a fancy way of saying we were going after his ass. Okay, I don't care how they label it. You know, they're still going after people with no evidence of what the hell they think they're doing this for. They're just picking people and throwing them out. The official did not include additional details about Rivera. And here's another little thing here. DOJ is preparing to send election monitors to California and New Jersey following requests from the state GOP. The Department of Justice is preparing to send federal election observers to California and New Jersey next month, targeting 2 Democrat states holding off-year elections following requests from state Republican parties. DOJ announced Friday that it is planning to monitor polling sites in Passaic County, New Jersey, and 5 counties in Southern and Central California, Los Angeles, Orange, Kern, Riverside, and Fresno. The goal, according to the DOJ, is to, quote, ensure transparency, ballot security, and compliance with federal laws, unquote. Quote, transparency at the polls translate into faith in the election process, and this Department of Justice is committed to upholding the highest standards of election integrity, unquote, Attorney General Pamela Bondi said in a statement to the AP. Election monitoring is a routine function of the Justice Department, but the focus on California and New Jersey comes as both states are set to hold closely watched elections with national consequences on November 4th. New Jersey has an open seat for governor, and California is holding a special election aimed at redrawing the state's congressional map to counter Republican gerrymandering efforts elsewhere ahead of the 2026 midterms. Well, if that's the case, then there's all reason to believe that these people that are supposedly going in there to make sure that the elections in these areas is fair are actually going in there to make sure they are unfair, okay? Because so much hinges on what the outcome of these elections is going to be. So they choose those two states, out of all the states, those two states to send in the DOJ's observers, okay? Yeah. Like, fuck, they're going to observe. They're going to be tampering with those fucking ballots. I know it, okay? Always think the worst, people, and you'll never go wrong in life. Always assume the worst is going to happen when people are doing stuff, okay? Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to be right. Something bad's going to happen. Now, you got Trump sweating bullets right now over the Epstein files, over what's happening, like what I just read here, okay? He's not going to sit idle with praying that, oh, God will come through for me, or oh, there, it's if I wish it'll happen. No, he ain't that kind of guy. He's got to interfere. He's got to get people in there working on his behalf. That's how he's always functioned. Manipulation, okay? Just like that shit during his campaign, talking about people eating your cats and dogs, manipulating people's perception. If he can't get somebody else to do it, he'll do it himself. But that's what he does. He always deals from the bottom of the deck. So sending these goons in there, people, that's just a red alert, okay, that you can expect some shenanigans to go on in those two states. The DOJ's efforts are the latest salvo in the GOP's preoccupation with election integrity after Trump's spent years refusing to accept the results of the 2020 election and falsely railing against mail-in voting as rife with fraud. Democrats fear the new administration will attempt to gain an upper hand in next year's midterms with similarly unfounded allegations of fraud. No, it won't be that. It'll be something else. I mean, allegations of fraud is not going to stop midterm elections. Okay. He's going to have to pull off something bigger than that in order to stop that from happening. And believe me, people, he will try. He will try his damnedest to find a way to prevent those elections from happening, okay? Because everything that he's done up to this point here hinges on what happens next year after the elections. So instead of hoping that everything goes his way, he's just going to get rid of the fucking worry altogether. And like I said, that's all going to depend on how we are as Americans, how much we care about this country. If we don't stop that, if we let that man do that next year by trying to stop the midterm elections, and we say nothing about it, then America's already been dead. Okay, the country's already died because the lifeblood of the nation has gone cold. Okay, if we intend to just sit back and do nothing, yeah, we're gonna let them get away with it, and then we'll cry and bitch and moan. Oh, you can't do that. You had your chance to stop them. Okay, but no, you decided to wait until the last minute. Okay, you always got to understand that people usually do the wrong thing first before they do the right thing. Okay, they have to see how bad can get before they make the right steps to do better. And that's why we ended up with Trump again. People had forgotten how bad things were when Trump was president the first time, and they felt like, well, things have been worse under Biden. They actually believed that things were worse under Biden. And then they turn around and they vote that guy back in. It's like you picked him and not somebody else. I mean, you guys got rid of him the first time. Why didn't you pick somebody else to run for your parties for president? No, they went right back to Trump. Why? Because Trump made himself into the biggest magnet in American history. He made himself likable by the worst among us. Okay, and I guess there's a lot of bad people in this country, but enough to make things to make it possible for him to get his ass back in there. And to this day, people still can't figure out how the fuck he won. It's still up in the air whether we actually had a fair election or not. I mean, there's no real hard evidence to suggest that things were done. But for some people, the numbers just don't add up. Okay? And if there's even a hint of a possibility that he might have tampered with the election, I'd believe it. Okay? Because that's just the kind of guy he is. He's crooked. When you're crooked, you're going to be crooked at everything you do. And Trump is. He's crooked. And so, like I said, it's the midterms are going to be important. But, you know, if he's going to just drag out the shutdown, you know, for another month, maybe 2 months, maybe until next year, okay, we can't assume that can't happen. We've never had a guy like this in the White House before. Of all the presidents that we've loved and hate over the years, none of them went as low as this fucking guy here. That's why I say Trump is not a president. He is the first dictator of the United States of America. He is not a president. So we have everything that all precedent has been shelved with this guy. We don't know what he's going to do, what he'll do. We have a suspicion what he might do, but we don't know for sure because we never had to deal with this kind of guy as a president. Okay? And what's also, for the first time, he's got people in his administration and the Senate and the Congress under his thumb and the fucking Justice Department with the Supreme Court. All the bad signs are there, folks, that things are not going to shake down in our favor here. No matter how many protests we launch, he'll just double down against us with ICE. Okay? So, like I said, this is really the last gasp of the United States. I mean, if we don't have the midterms next year, that's it. That's over for us. It is. I mean, I feel like there's nothing more protesting is going to be able to accomplish if we're no longer allowed to vote, you know, for our elected officials anymore. And, you know, if that's put to a stop, people are going to be like scratching their ass and trying to figure out, what are we going to do next? You know, the answer is right in your face. You just don't want to acknowledge it. Okay? You don't want to acknowledge it because a lot of you out there don't want to put yourself on the line, which is probably why a lot of you never went and joined the military or anything like that to fight for your country. You know, it's just something you wouldn't do. If you're not willing to fight for your country in the aspect of being in the military, then you certainly aren't going to want to do that as a civilian who's confronted with a tyrannical government, because that's a duty of us all, military or not, to oppose tyranny. Just because he got in there and what you think looked legal, it wasn't legal. Okay? He should not have run for president because he's a criminal. Everything that it says in the Constitution, what disqualifies a person from running for office, that's him. He's the very person that the Constitution was forbidding to sit in the White House. And yet, with the Supreme Court backing him, they let him in there. Not once, but twice. So, I really don't know how you define what a tyrannical government is. But just that in itself shows that everything that's being done after that, after he got voted in there, okay, is everything he's done is illegal. It's all been crimes. Every fucking thing that he's done is illegal. The military shouldn't even be following his orders. Okay, they have every right to oppose him because he's not a legitimately seated president. Okay, so what? He won the election. That don't mean a fucking thing. People can hold elections over people they don't know all the time. Okay? Even if it never gets out that they're criminals, people still vote, right? But we knew he was a criminal. We saw the trials. We saw all the shit that, you know, the last 4 years. We saw everything he went through. So you can't say we didn't know. We went ahead and voted for him. He shouldn't even have been on the ballot, people. He had no right to have his name on the ballot. So the fact that he was on the ballot, again, wrong, illegal, against the law. Second, he wins. He's illegally and against the law sitting in the White House acting as a president, and he's not a president. He's a dictator. He's a criminal. He shouldn't be there, period. What they're allowing him to do to the White House, the ballroom, all that crap, again, criminal, illegal. He should not have been allowed to do that. Okay? That's not his White House. I don't care if he won or is he sitting in there. I'm sorry. He's a criminal. He shouldn't even be in there or even in the position to do what he's doing. He's spending our money. Again, criminal, illegal. He shut the government down, okay, and he's spending money out the ass when people need it. He's going to be millions of people in Texas next month who aren't even going to have SNAP benefits because of the shutdown. And what's he doing with the money that could go to them? Blowing it on all kinds of other things. Argentina gets a handout, okay? Now, I'm sorry, people. I mean, none of you people in MAGA can convince me that I'm wrong. None of you. Okay? Not a single one of you. You've tried. In different ways you've tried. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. If you cannot convince me, then I know I'm right. Okay? Because your arguments make no fucking sense. You can insult me. You can call me names all you fucking want. Okay? That doesn't address the problems that we're all facing. Singling me out and making fun of me or something like that, however you want to do it, doesn't solve anything. It doesn't fix what's going on in Washington. It doesn't put food on the table for those people who are not going to have food. It's not going to put kids into college. It's not going to pay off the national deficit. None of that stuff is going to happen for you because you come after me because I ain't that big a person. All right, if I was the president, yeah, then I'd be a good target to go after. But the guy that you should be insulting and going after, that's the guy you need to go and insult and make fun of, okay? Because that's the son of a bitch who's got a hand on your throat and he's squeezing. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze to get every fucking dime he can out of you. I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that, I hope. But he would. And he calls himself an American. I don't understand how any of us can live with this situation going on and on like this. One fucking attack on us after another. I can't see how we can sit idle and try to make this out to be like, oh, we just have a president we don't agree with all the time. No, this is bigger than that, people. This isn't Nixon and Watergate and all that stuff. This is bigger than that. This isn't just a president that isn't doing his job all the way. This is a guy who flat out refuses to do his job, and he's doing his own job. And even though it's against the rules and the law in most cases, he don't care. Even if it means stepping on your throat, cutting you off from your food, he don't care. Why? Because you're not going to be one of the people he's going to invite to that ballroom when it's done. If you ain't got millions of dollars in your bank accounts, he's got nothing to do with you. He don't give a shit about you. Okay? So what? You voted for him. Big deal. He doesn't know your name. Did he thank you personally for your vote? What did he do for you since then? Is food gone down in price yet? I haven't seen that. In fact, I was just out today getting some stuff. I noticed a lot of those cheaper items that used to be on the shelf ain't there anymore. How did that happen? Okay? The vegetable section in the store getting thinner and thinner as the time goes on. There's a lot of open spaces there. We're not getting fruits and vegetables as much in the stores. It's probably going to be even less next year. You're going to see that because all the crops that were supposed to be harvested this year, they didn't get harvested. So they're showing pictures of the crops all dying, rotted, and these farmers are just like, I don't know what to do. They're probably hoping some company will buy them out, okay, and take over the farm, which means higher prices for us in the market, at the grocery stores. So, people, he's not doing us any favors. He's not doing anything he said he was going to do except for one thing. He's going to go after the illegal immigrants, okay? Which I think was the only thing you people really gave a shit about, because he's doing that, and because he's doing it, you're letting him get away with all this other shit that he's doing against you. your racism, your bigotry has cost this country a lot. A lot of people are going to suffer because of your need to be a racist. I hope you're proud of yourself, because really, when it comes down to it, you're the ones that's going to be the downfall of this country, not the rest of us. I mean, you could say, well, maybe the rest of us, we could have done more to prevent it. But, when you have as much criminality in our country as we do, and we've done very little to try to stop it, hey, the cancer has finally taken the patient. Okay? And I think that's where we are now. I think, our democracy is gone. I mean, I think so. And I think that's the reason why we're probably not going to have midterms next year. And if we don't, I'm not sure what the hell the governors and all the other, elected officials are going to do about it. Because if the Supreme Court isn't going to do anything, then Trump's just going to get away with doing that. All I can see, and really, this is really the only way out of this nightmare, is for every state to decide whether they want to stick with the union or not. This is really the only avenue we have left, other than having a straight out civil war. State by state, we're going to have to decide: do we want to stay with this government or not? And I predicted something like this happening 5, 6, 7 years ago. Okay, that the trend that we're going on leads to this, where the states that were once united are just going to fragment. They're going to leave because the government has really been messed with so badly that all the great things that we did in the government have pretty much been cratered by Republicans and the extremist side of conservatism, by evangelical nuts and all that shit. Okay, they pretty much ruined all the good things that we had because greed took over. And at some point, that's going to affect the states. And when it affects the states really bad, and they see there's no help coming from the government, they're going to have no choice but to call it quits with the federal government, and they're going to have to back out and say, I'm sorry, I can't go down this road with you any further because it's hurting all of our people here in this state. So that's really the only thing that I can think of, is that if we are denied our midterms next year, that really should be the red alert klaxon that suggests that we have to start talking about splitting away from the government, all of us, okay? Because we can't stay with a government that's not going to be there for us as it promised it would, okay? We pay our taxes into that government, and we're going to get nothing back from it now, okay? Think about that. Your Social Security retirement, I mean, hey, he's looking at taking that too, stealing it. You can call it legalized theft, but it's still theft, all right? He wants to take away all your fucking money you've been paying into your whole working life. He wants to just, because you don't deserve it. He wants it. Got to save the government first before we can feed the people. I feel like, we're like the spouse that keeps getting abused by the husband all the fucking time, okay? We keep taking the punches. We keep, getting our asses kicked and stuff and criticized. And we keep going back to the son of a bitch, okay? And I ain't just saying, Trump in general, but just, the government, which is really nasty. We keep running back to it. And I'm thinking, if we were, let's just say the state that you're living in, let's just say for the sake of discussion that your state that you live in right now was not a state of the United States. If you had a governor or whatever considering joining the United States, and you saw right now what the United States is doing, would you support your governors wanting to join the United States? I bet a lot of you would say hell fucking no. So if you're already thinking that now, then why are we waiting for midterms? Okay? Because if you don't trust the government to honor your vote which they haven't done in quite a few elections so far. If you're not going to trust them to honor your vote, then why stay with the government? Say goodbye. You don't want us to play anymore? We're not going to play in your sandbox. Adios. Okay? That's my fucking advice for everybody out there. You're bitching about the branches and the leaves on the tree. Let's just get away from the root of the problem. You know, our governor in Maine has already said, look, if he's going to take away funding for the state and a lot of things, we're just not going to pay any federal taxes anymore. Period. That's as much as saying we don't want to be part of the United States anymore. Okay, so the thought is already out there, people. We just need the voice to begin the conversation. We need to actually address this. If the red states, you know, which a lot of them are, you know, they want to stay united, let them go down this path with Trump, okay? But the rest of us, we don't have to. We don't have to. If you want to live in a red state, I suggest you uproot yourself from the state you're living in and move to it and find out how good a conservative government works. Okay? Those are the states that suck the most off the federal, you know, breasts than anything else, because they're always, their leaderships are always corrupt, and they're taking money out of the state to line their pockets most of the time. So they never have money for emergencies and shit like that, always crying to FEMA, and yet here they want to destroy FEMA. Well, then what are you going to do with the red states that are going to fall into the cracks? Okay, you're just going to flush them down the toilet? You know, this is the way they operate. No, I'm sorry, people, but look, I'm just saying, we need to start thinking about that, all of us, because if Trump denies us those fucking midterms, this is the only choice you have. Otherwise, it's Civil War 2.0 in America. Take your pick. I'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy the rest of the week.